The rain pelted the windows of St. Mary's Hospital in Chicago, a relentless drumbeat that matched the pounding in Emily Harper's chest. It was late, nearing the end of her shift as a nurse in the emergency room, and the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sterile glow over the chaos. Emily, with her chestnut hair pulled into a tight ponytail and hazel eyes sharp with focus, moved through the ward with practiced ease. At 27, she was young but seasoned, her hands steady despite the weight of lives she held daily. Tonight, though, something felt different, a heaviness in the air, a premonition she couldn't shake. The ER doors slammed open, shattering the hum of routine. Paramedics rushed in, their voices jagged with urgency. Gunshot wound, chest. 9-year-old male, no pulse. The words hit Emily like a punch, her breath catching as she saw the small figure on the gurney. The boy, pale and fragile, lay motionless, his Spider-Man t-shirt soaked crimson. His name, she'd later learn, was Noah, son of a visiting diplomat. But in that moment, he was just a child, his life slipping away. Emily's heart raced, a mix of fear and resolve surging through her. She sprinted to the gurney, her hands already at Noah's side, checking for a pulse. Nothing. The monitors wailed, their shrill beeps a countdown to disaster. The trauma surgeon was delayed, stuck in traffic, and the hospital's only other ER doctor was tied up with a car crash victim. Emily's mind spun through protocols, intubation, chest compression, emergency thoracotomy, but she wasn't a surgeon. Nurses didn't perform surgeries, yet Noah's chest barely moved, his skin growing colder by the second. "Call the chief now," Emily shouted, her voice cutting through the panic. She grabbed the phone, dialing hospital administration for clearance. "We need approval for an emergency procedure." The voice on the other end was maddeningly slow. "We're consulting the board, Emily. Hold on." Hold on? Noah didn't have time. His lips were turning blue, his life fading in her hands. Emily's stomach churned with dread, but a fierce clarity overtook her. She couldn't wait. She wouldn't. Glancing at the sparse equipment, scalpel, clamps, a ventilator, she made her choice. "I'm doing it," she said, more to herself than anyone else. Her colleague Sarah gasped. "Emily, you can't! You'll lose your job!" But Emily's eyes locked on Noah's still form, her resolve unyielding. "He'll die if I don't." Her hands trembled as she prepped Noah's chest, but her training kicked in, steadying her. She intubated him, securing his airway, then began the procedure she'd only seen in simulations. The room was a blur of beeping machines and tense whispers, but Emily blocked it all out. Sweat beaded on her forehead, her heart hammering as she made precise incisions. Every second felt like an eternity, every cut a gamble. She was breaking every rule, risking her career, but none of that mattered. Noah's life was all that did. Minutes stretched into forever. Then, a miracle. The monitor's erratic beeps steadied. Noah's heart was beating again, faint but there. Emily's knees nearly buckled with relief, but she pushed on, stitching his wounds with care. Just as she finished, the trauma team burst in, their faces a mix of shock and awe. "You did this?" the lead surgeon asked, incredulous. Emily stepped back, exhausted but unapologetic. "He's alive," she said simply. The next morning, Emily sat in the hospital boardroom, her hands clasped tightly to hide their shaking. The air was thick with judgment, the board members' faces stern. Dr. Reynolds, the chief, leaned forward, his voice cold. "You performed surgery without clearance, Harper. You put the hospital at risk." Emily's chest tightened, but she held his gaze. "I saved his life. That's what mattered." The board exchanged glances unmoved. "Rules are rules," Reynolds said. "You're terminated." The words hit like a slap, stealing her breath. Emily stood, her legs unsteady, and walked out, the hospital's sterile halls blurring through tears she refused to let fall. She'd done the right thing, but it cost her everything. Her job, her identity as a nurse, her purpose. Back at her small apartment, the rain had stopped, but the silence was suffocating. She sank onto the couch, staring at the city lights, her mind replaying the board's verdict. Had it been worth it? Yes, she decided. Noah was alive. That was enough. The next morning, a knock startled her. Emily opened the door to find a man in a tailored suit, his expression formal. "Emily Harper?" he asked, handing her an envelope with a presidential seal. Her heart skipped. "Please read it," he said, then left. Hands shaking, Emily tore it open. The letter was from President Daniel Hayes, inviting her to the White House. Noah's family, grateful for her heroism, had brought her actions to his attention. Emily's mind reeled. The president? It felt like a dream. Days later, Emily sat in a sleek government car, the White House looming ahead, its marble columns gleaming under the sun. Her simple navy dress felt out of place amid the grandeur, her nerves a tangled knot. She was just a nurse, not someone who belonged in halls of power. Yet here she was, led through opulent corridors to a private office where President Hayes waited. Miss Harper, he said warmly, his presence commanding yet kind. Your courage saved a life. That's no small thing. Emily blushed, her voice soft. I just did my job, sir. Hayes smiled. You did more than that. You acted when others wouldn't. He offered her a role as his personal nurse, a position of trust and honor. Emily's breath caught. It was beyond anything she'd imagined, a chance to serve, to make a difference on a grand scale. I'm honored, she said, her voice thick with emotion. As she left, an aide handed her another envelope. Inside was a letter from Noah's family, expressing gratitude and a gift, $50 million. Emily's hands shook as she read the figure, her heart pounding. She hadn't acted for reward, hadn't wanted this. The sum was unimaginable, a weight she wasn't sure she could carry. Back at her apartment, she sat by the window, the letter in her lap. The money could change her life, but could it change her? She didn't want it to. She was still Emily, the nurse who'd risked everything for a boy she didn't know. Over the next year, Emily's life transformed. She thrived as the president's nurse, leading a team in the White House's medical wing. Her office, once a cramped hospital cubicle, now gleamed with cutting-edge equipment, but Emily remained grounded. She visited Noah often, his bright smile a reminder of why she'd acted. You're my hero, he'd say, and Emily's heart would swell, that not with pride, but with purpose. One spring day, Emily stood before a packed auditorium at Georgetown's nursing school, her palms sweaty, but her voice steady. Nursing isn't about fame or money, she told the students. It's about courage, about acting when it's hard. The room was silent, their eyes locked on her. I lost my job to save a life. I'd do it again, because it's not about what you gain, it's about who you help. The applause was deafening, but Emily barely heard it. She was there for the students who approached her after, their voices trembling with inspiration. That was her true reward. That night, Emily stood at her office window, the DC skyline glittering below. She'd gained wealth, prestige, a new path, but none of it defined her. She was still the woman who'd acted from the heart, who'd chosen a child's life over her own security. The $50 million sat in a trust, funding scholarships for nurses and clinics for the underserved. It wasn't about the money, it was about the good it could do. Emily's journey had changed her, but not her core. She was still a nurse, still driven by compassion. And as she looked out at the city, she felt peace. Her life was bigger now, but her heart was the same. She'd saved a life, and in doing so, found her purpose. Thank you for joining Emily's incredible story. If you loved this tale of courage and heart, please like and subscribe to H Stories for more inspiring content. Share your thoughts below. What did Emily's journey mean to you? How did her choices resonate? Rate the story from 1 to 10 and let us know where you're watching from. We can't wait to hear from you.